Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Fleming, and I know it's been a while. I've been gone for a while. I have been taking care of some personal things, as well as I have been doing some things for my YouTube segment. I have done a number of things. Personal, I have a business that I own, so you all might as well know that since we share videos together. You might as well know some things about the person that you're viewing. So I'm a business owner, and so there are several things that I have needed to do. I've also been doing a lot of reading, and as well as a lot of reflecting. But doesn't change anything as far as Course in Miracles. I read Course in Miracles. I do the daily lessons. I still attend Course in Miracles groups. I haven't attended so many as of the past 3 weeks because of all of the different things that I've been doing. But at the same time, Course in Miracles is still the foundation of what I do. So with all that being said, let's get started with another video. So today we are doing chapter 2, the separation and the atonement, part 4, healing as release from fear. Chapter 2, the separation and the atonement, part 4, healing as release from fear. All right. So, let's begin. Our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means. The atonement is the principle, and healing is the result. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle. The atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is result. The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. All healing is essentially the release from fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. So, under normal, what I used to do is I would go ahead and read the entire text, and then I would break it down paragraph by paragraph. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to break it down paragraph by paragraph and then give a summary. So I'm going to do that from here on out just to save time. So basically, where it's talking about all healing is essentially the release from fear. Well, A Course in Miracles teaches that the body develops illness as the mind suffers from level confusion. The body develops illness as the mind attempts to seek outside of itself, or for remedies and answers, or things that it desires, where the mind attempts to look outside of itself. Basically, all sickness is outside searching. Remember, God has given us everything. We were already given everything upon our creation. So when we are searching for things that we perceive we do not have, that is the causality of all sickness that is then developed by the body, which is a teaching device, which is it is a learning device. So I have a saying that that I like to do, and I'll mention that in just a minute. One way to offset that, because we are all fearful about something. We're all fearful about something, or else we would not be here. So a way to offset that is with forgiveness. If you recognize what it is that you are fearful of, then forgiveness is definitely on the menu, brothers and sisters. Forgiveness will set you free. Let forgiveness be the replacement for fear. That is mentioned in the Course in Miracles. Okay? So let forgiveness be the replacement for fear. So if there's something that you are fearful about, forgiveness is the answer. Paragraph 2. A major step in the Atonement plan is to undo error at all levels. Sickness, or not right-mindedness, is the result of level confusion, because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another. We have referred to miracles as the means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. The whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter, which the mind cannot control. This error can take two forms. It can be believed that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind. When it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. Okay, so that can confuse people. That paragraph there can confuse people. So let's speak a little bit about that paragraph. First, I want to say that the mind is infinite. So when I say the mind is infinite, there is nothing outside of the mind. That's how infinite and vast the mind is. Everything that you perceive is right there within the mind. You are connected to the mind of God, but everything that you perceive in this world, in this universe, you are perceiving in your own mind. We're not going to go into everything that's associated with that. If you're just now reading A Course in Miracles and just kind of getting on, just suspend any questions you may have, any thoughts of disbelief or anything like that, and just let the information flow to you. But all creation exists within the mind. Okay? So there is nothing outside of the mind. And so what it is saying in this last sentence, when it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. Well, on that part, it's basically saying, first of all, the body cannot miscreate. The body is not even capable of thought. But as far as the mind miscreating in the body, well, that the mind can miscreate. But when it says that the mind cannot create beyond itself, well, the mind is infinite, and so there is nothing beyond the mind. There is nothing outside of you. Outside of you, there is nothing. So you are that vast. And so if you ever have any questions, you can always email me at sfleming0227@gmail.com. If you have any questions about that, just email me at sfleming0227@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. But in the meanwhile, we're going to move on to paragraph 3. Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created, and the body is a learning device for the mind. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the Atonement to two-edged specifications. Two-edged applications. This is not because the body is a miracle, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. The body is merely a part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, over-evaluated. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself. So what that means is basically, to attempt to deny the body, which the mind has basically created in order to experience this physical realm, this physical world. Without these bodies, you wouldn't be able to experience this physical world, all the sights and sounds and touches and everything else. I mean, you still need a body in order to be able to interact in this physical world. And that's what we use these bodies for. These bodies are not, it's not you. It is not me. It is basically an avatar, like the movie Avatar, where they needed avatars to move around in the movie. The people were safe and sound in some sort of device that projected their mind into these bodies, and these bodies were not animate until the mind was actually in these bodies. And that's a good way to describe how these bodies, like this body here and the body that you're actually watching this video from, that's how our bodies work as well. Without the mind as far as consciousnous directing it, and without spirit animating it, the body would just collapse to the floor like a sack of bricks. It would just collapse. Without the mind as far as the thought, without the mind as far as consciousness directing it, and without spirit animating this body as well as your body would just fall to the floor. So, paragraph 3. Again, it's important to go over only the mind can create because spirit has already been created. Your spirit is eternal. Your mind is the only part of you that actually needs to relearn who it is. Your spirit is already there. Your spirit and soul are already just intact. They're not going anywhere, and they've already been created. The mind, however, needs to relearn, and that's why we're here. So only the mind can create. The body cannot create. The body is a learning device. It is to help to facilitate the mind's learning. If the mind learns fear, then the body will then manifest disease and illness in accordance to fear that the mind is basically projecting onto the body. The body, it basically teaches the mind. When you see many people that are ill in hospitals and things of that nature, understand, brothers and sisters, that about over 90% of those cases are forgiveness related. It comes from, and forgiveness is what releases you from fear. Forgiveness is what removes the fear. So it's forgiveness related, or it's fear related, which, if one is willing to forgive, and it's not to say anything about these people. It's not to judge them or pass judgment on them or say that they're doing something wrong or anything like that. I'm just basically saying or explaining that over 90% of the illnesses of this world have to do with unforgiveness. Not forgiveness, but unforgiveness, or the non-removal of the fear that has been embedded, and the body just basically manifests just different types of disease. Let's continue. Paragraph 4. All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the Atonement. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help the non-right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They are already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. Okay. So, all material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. So what that is actually saying is that blood pressure medicine, eye drops for glaucoma, cholesterol medicine, all these different things are basically, it's basically restatements of magic principles. It's non-creative agents that are used for healing that you have invested healing belief in. Now, it says further, however, that it does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil, or however you want to interpret evil, non-productive. So it's saying it basically what it's saying is it's not bad, if you want to use the whole good and bad thing. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the Atonement. So, it's possible that this person could be just completely, a true believer in their illness. I met someone several years ago, and she was so invested in her illness. She referred to it as my disease. She was not open at the time to the possibilities of of healing, to any possibilities of healing. So that when you have someone like that, this person is not going to want to hear anything about Course in Miracles. When you have someone that's suffering or dying, or their body is dying from, say, cancer, their body has manifested cancer. Yes, the bodily manifestations of disease, yes, it comes from fear and unforgiveness and things like that. People don't want to hear that, though. They don't want it, as far as practicality, for practicality purpose or practical purposes, people don't want to hear about the reasons why they may be ill. And I wouldn't suggest that you actually bring something like that up. And so what it's saying here is it's okay. It's saying it's okay to go ahead and use that blood pressure medicine. And as a matter of fact, so it's not saying, so hold off on throwing away the blood pressure and cholesterol medicine. Hold off on throwing away the heart murmur medicine and any other type of medicine that you may be taking to remain healthy or keep the body that you're using healthy. Hold off on throwing that away because it's saying basically that it's okay. That if you are not ready for the Atonement, it's okay. Go ahead and use your medicine. Go ahead and use your blood pressure medicine. Go ahead and use your medicine to assist you in any way that you need assistance. So, and it's saying basically that a miracle, if someone were to perform a miracle on someone, which really a miracle really requires two minds and a willing person. But let's just say hypothetically someone were to perform a miracle and someone who wasn't ready for that type of miracle receive that type of miracle, it's saying basically they could become very frightened at that point. The entire world would be upside down, because when you have a situation where you believe completely in one way of thinking, and then you're suddenly propelled or thrust into another way of thinking, and all of a sudden your illness, which you may have gotten a lot of sympathy, there may be you may actually be emotionally tied to this illness, and for somebody to come along and tell you that, hey, it's all cleared up, now what do you do? I mean, that's the way some people think. So, you just have to honor everyone on their journey. Whatever journey they're on, you just honor them on their journey. You can see the light, you can see the healing, you can see the healing of their mind within you. You can use charity by perceiving the perfection in them. But at the same time, I would not probably tell them about, hey, this is a result of this or that, and that we can try to work on a miracle. I probably wouldn't do that, but at the same time, I can't tell you what to do. All right, so let's move on to paragraph 5. The value of the Atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. So let's expound on that. Let's expound on that a little bit. So what it is actually saying is that a miracle will communicate with you in your own language. So whatever you understand, in whatever symbols you will understand it, or in whatever signs that you would understand. A miracle will give you those symbols. It will give you those signs. It will give you those things and help remove the fear. It will help alleviate the fear, but it will communicate with you in your own language, in a language that you are capable of understanding and moving beyond fear with. That is what it is actually saying. However this miracle comes about, okay? Now, as far as how miracles come about, they come about usually between two brothers, but at the same time, miracles happen all the time. Anytime love is present, you have the potential for a miracle. Miracles are acts of love. So, love can spark a miracle at any time. Anytime love is present, you have the possibility or potential of a miracle. So we talk a lot about fear. And what does fear actually come from? When it refers to fear in Course in Miracles, fear comes from perceiving ourselves as separate from God. Whether you perceive God to be someone up in the clouds looking down, a beneficial being or figure, you're still perceiving God to be outside of you. You're not perceiving God to be a part of you, and you being a part of God, where there's no separation. When you're perceiving God to be somewhere out there, that is exactly what it means by separation. God is not somewhere out there. God is not looking down. God is here within us. God is here. God is everywhere. But make no mistake, God is here. And God is, if you point to yourself, God is there. So, when we don't perceive that, that's, part of the separation. That's part of the fear. That's part of the fear. So, I read I also want to read what Pathways of Light, which is an organization that is dedicated to A Course in Miracles. I want to read what they have to say about fear. So, how are we released from fear? All release from fear is the release from mistaken thinking, stemming from the desire to experience independence from God. We are released from fear as we are willing to let go of thinking we are separate from God. As we let go of what is not true, our mind is healed. In truth, we are eternal spirit. We are formless love in one. We are a formless love in one individual, or in one undivided whole. So I'm going to repeat that again. In truth, we are eternal spirit. We are formless love in one undivided whole. So I like that. And we have Pathways of Light Ministries to thank for that little piece. So I also want to talk about my experience as far as in healing. I was several years ago, or back in about 2009, 2008 or 2009, I believe it was 2009, I was diagnosed with glaucoma. And so which is an eye degenerative disease, in order to avoid losing sight, then it is required it was prescribed to me to begin taking eye drops. Well, I've been taking eye drops for years. And as I began reading A Course in Miracles, I remember reading this part, this section. And, everything that I've experienced in A Course in Miracles has been true. everything has been true. Everything that Master Teacher Jesus was talking about has been completely and utterly true for me. So I began to question this, but I began to question whether I should just go ahead and put down the eye drops and just, as far as just release the fear, and, perhaps I would no longer need the eye drops. Well, I'm going to tell you how that worked out. So I didn't stop the eye drops completely. Okay. I began to lessen my dosage. I began to take drops, maybe every other day. Then sometimes several days will go by, and then I'll take drops and things like that. But I noticed that my eyes didn't feel the same. When I first started taking eye drops back in like 2009, I could feel like a certain pressure behind my eyes. I could feel it. It was like, it's difficult to describe, but I could feel it. It felt like there was pressure behind my eyeballs, and I could feel it. So just fast forwarding to 2018, as I began to experiment with not taking my drops, I noticed that pressure, that feeling of pressure behind my eyeballs, it didn't come back. I still continue to take my drops, every 2 or 3 days or whatever. But something, when I went to my last doctor's appointment, when I went to my last eye doctor's appointment about 3 months ago, he told me that I had perfect pressure in my eyes. He said I had perfect pressure in my eyes. So I had never had, even when I was taking my eye drops religiously, even when I was taking them methodically, taking them every night and every morning, he would still tell, oh, well, your pressure's a little bit high, but it's still looking good. It's a little high, the pressure, but it's looking good. Now, I was taking my drops all the time. So, but I will say, I didn't get completely off the drops, because I was like, hey, everything else has been true, but at the same time, I just didn't have that total faith where I was willing to just get completely off the drops. But I did start or stop taking them as often, and I got a report of perfect pressure in my eyes. So that's something to think about. Now, does that mean that I don't take my drops? No, I haven't taken them in a couple of days, but I'm going to take them tonight. So I'm still taking them, but at the same time, I'm just observing the results. And I got a report of having perfect pressure in my eyes, not taking my eye drops every day religiously since I have been reading A Course in Miracles. So anyhow, I wanted to share that with everyone, with my viewers. So again, this is Stephen Fleming. And again, this is another episode of A Course in Miracles. And today we just finished reading Chapter 2, Part 4, Healing as Release from Fear. Stay tuned next week, where we will be reading Chapter 2, Part 5, The Function of the Miracle Worker. Chapter 2, Part 5, The Function of the Miracle Worker. I want to thank everyone for watching. Again, my name is Stephen Fleming, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening.